Hi, everybody. My name is Julie Barrett, and I'm a recent immigrant from Washington State. I am a mom of 4 children, and all of my children have been through public school in Washington State. My oldest graduated in 2014, and my 2 youngest would be graduating in 2024, but we have since just last year taken them out of the public schools. So I watched over the decades of what happened in public school in Washington State, and as the radical left agenda was inched slowly year after year into the public schools. It's really bad in Washington. And a year and a half ago, I run a organization in Washington called Conservative Ladies of Washington, and we focus on state level legislation. And after the 2022 legislative session, and really seeing how bad it was. So we decided to come to Florida, where we would have more freedom, more parental rights. It was my plan that I would, when we got here, I would get active, I would learn what was going on and get involved. And so we bought our home last fall, and we made the move on July 1st. I guess it was Monday morning that I saw Alexis post in the Facebook group about this mental health agenda item at the school board meeting on Monday afternoon. And that was very alarming, but that was a huge red flag. And I felt strongly enough about it that I wanted to go and make a comment on Monday. And I know Alexis shared the video, so I imagine many of you heard my public comment, but I truly feel that mental health has no place in government education. I believe it is a means to alienate parents and children, and just part of the process of bringing SEL, social emotional learning, into the schools, which also incorporates critical race theory, queer theory, all of these different acronyms. In Washington State, we also have CSE, which is comprehensive sex education, that's mandated for Washington students. And this mental health stuff encompasses all of that. So I was very alarmed by that. And your school board made national news, as I'm sure you're all well aware. And so, even in my neck of the woods up in Washington, we knew about your conservative school board. So I was rather shocked to see that on the agenda. And then after I made my public comments and the school board was discussing it, I really felt like they were dismissing the concerns that I had. I am not used to being dismissed by so-called conservatives. And so I found that to be very concerning. And so Alexis asked if I would come and share some of the things that I see in this policy that I've seen in Washington State and why they are concerning. So I'm going to start the presentation now. So my first slide is on the right here. This is the cover for the MHAA, the plan that was in the documents that the school board sent out. I think it's a 19-page PDF, and I can put that link in the comments if you guys don't have it. But I think Alexis has already shared that, at least on the Facebook group and probably in the email that she sent out. About an hour after the school board meeting, I noticed this tweet from Moms for Liberty about mental health care. And that's why it has no place in public schools, #parental rights. It is, mental health in schools is a means to infringe upon parental rights. So obviously that is something that Moms for Liberty is well aware of. And this is one of the things that Moms for Liberty wants to fight against. So I think it's really important for this group to really take a strong stand on this issue. It's such a slippery slope. Okay, so I want to go through some of the stuff that I've seen in the plan and why it's concerning. So the plan from the school board has a few different companies that they want to work with, consultants that they want to work with to implement this mental health care plan in the schools. Now, if you watch the school board meeting, the directors were very, and Alexis, you'll have to help me with some of the names, but the gal from the district that was answering their questions, I forget her name.
Deb Jackalone.
Yes, Deb Jackalone. She was really pretty vague about the things that go on in the school and the way that they implement this. And so if you if you don't know what it looks like, the way she really made it sound like it was, to quote Hillary Clinton, a nothing burger. And that to me was very concerning. And so here is one of the first ones. This is the zones of regulation. And they give this to elementary school kids. I have a child with autism, and so I'm very familiar with the zones of regulation. A lot of this SEL stuff came out of working with children with special needs, specifically children with autism. And then what they've done is they've taken it out of the special ed classes and mainstreamed it for the other kids. And so it sounds pretty, and people have this positive perception of it, but it's very much an agenda that we do not want in the schools. And so I pulled this screenshot right off of the Zones of Regulation website. This image here on the left-hand side, obviously that's old. They had a webinar over a year ago communicating SEL initiatives and programs with communities. And they have, they even talk about here in this article about the perception of the public that can be negative about SEL. And so they, here I've highlighted this part, they find the term social emotional learning itself to be objectionable. The term polling best among parents is life skills. And you'll see a lot of that in the Florida Resiliency Toolkit. You'll see a lot of life skills. I want to back up just for a minute to this. I want to bring your attention to this little hand with all of these different terms on it: resilience, self-awareness, wellness, kindness, hope, positivity. Keep those in the back of your mind as we go through this, because they use all of these words that sound really positive and good. And they're very misleading, and it is a way for them to manipulate young children. So just wanted to draw your attention to that, so you have it in the back of your mind as we go through this. Okay, so this is the zones of regulation, which in the MHAA that the school board put forward, this would be one of the programs that they would use for elementary kids in Sarasota. PBIS, and I'm just going to briefly touch on this. I think Ashton's going to talk about it a little bit later. This is very common. It's in, I believe it's in all 50 states, positive interventions and behavioral supports. And as you can see here, I took this, this is from a Classcraft blog, and I've linked it at the bottom. And they talk about the difference between SEL and PBIS. And so they're rewarding students who demonstrate SEL characteristics. So that's another thing to be concerned about, is the way that they're using these programs to, if the students who cooperate and fall in line with it, they get rewarded for that. And it's really the manipulation of children is something to be very concerned about, especially as you see the transgender agenda being pushed on kids and getting children to accept this false reality. And to not believe their own eyes. That's all part of what this is, and manipulating kids and teaching kids, not to trust themselves. And so here at the bottom, I've highlighted again, a school that has laid the foundation for SEL can thrive on building on those with the PBIS system. So PBIS is not designed to be used without SEL. They build upon each other. They work together. And why try? So why try is what they're going to use, what they're going to use for middle school kids and high school kids. I reached out to Courage is a Habit. I don't know if you all have heard of that group, but they are kind of I consider them the SEL watchdogs. They're watching this stuff. They report on it. They give parents a lot of tools. I believe the website's courageisahabit.org. And they have a lot of great parent tools here. But what you can see, I'm going to move mine. I just pulled this quote off of their website. They told me, when I reached out to Courage is a Habit, they told me that this is one of the main radical left SEL programs used in America in government schools today. This is the one that Sarasota Schools wants to use for middle and high school kids. And so you can see here, Why Try was used as a countywide SEL program to help students adjust to the transition of elementary school to middle school. In just 5 months, students decreased disciplinary referrals by 21% and decreased expulsions by 18%. And just kind of as a side note on this, Alexis was telling me that you have changed your SROs in the schools. So they're now district employees. They're not contracted law enforcement officers from the county or the city. And that there have been some changes in the number of disciplinary actions and the way that they're, so that might be something for this group to kind of dig into a little bit. I would be curious about the connection between these programs and the in-house SROs that they're using and how that works with this why try stuff. So one of
if I might say,
yeah.
We will, that's our next little deep dive is all of that. So yes.
Awesome. And I'm trying to give you guys just a broad, like high level picture of the red flags that I'm seeing just in my first week looking at this stuff, and how I see what's happening here looking very much like a radical left, deep blue state, which should be very concerning for all of us. We want to protect these, I call them conservative strongholds. We have to protect these strongholds and have a place where our children can go to school and get educated, not indoctrinated, and where parents can have rights. Our family was really, I don't want to say destroyed, but we had horror stories with parental rights issues in Washington state, which is part of the reason we're gone. So this is very, very real. And I hope that we can nip it here. Okay, continuing. So here is y'all have probably seen this. This is the Florida Building Resiliency, the Resiliency Toolkit. As soon as I heard the word resiliency, I was alarmed, and it is part of SEL, all of these buzzwords. And as you look through this, you will see, you're going to keep this snap this in your mind's camera as we keep going, because you're going to see how this ties into some other things that are not good. And I feel like this, and this is what they do with SEL altogether. They make it sound pretty. They make it sound like a positive thing. And so anybody who speaks out against it, well, why wouldn't you want, children to have critical thinking and problem solving? And of course we do, but not the way that they are doing it. Why wouldn't you want kids to have empathy and to be kind? Well, we do, but I was trying to make this point earlier and I think I got sidetracked, but with the trans agenda that they're pushing into, the schools and onto our children, and making pretty names for pedophiles like minor attracted persons, right? So they want kids to be kind and accepting to people who aren't like them and to people who are actually bad people. And so that's dangerous. And that's one of the things that this type of curriculum and training of the kids, it really breaks down that natural fear that is a good quality for human beings to have. And here is, I took this off of the Florida DOE website, and this is part of their resiliency toolkit. These are the resources for the 12 components. These are the 12 components. So this looks very similar to the words are, kind of synonymous with a lot of the ones we saw in that very first slide. And you're going to see these as we move forward into some of the next graphics I show you. So this is from Courage is a Habit. And what SEL does is basically it weaponizes kindness, right? And so that's what I've been trying to communicate, is that they take these things that are supposed to be good, and they're actually manipulating children with this. So child abusers will take advantage of children who are kind, who are empathetic, who are inclusive, who have been taught to break down that barrier of safe and not safe people. So if you haven't heard of it, and I would imagine you have, because I know it's a big priority for Moms for Liberty on a national level, the CDC's whole school, whole community, whole child model. I really feel like this WSCC model is a way to make schools basically one-stop shopping, where they will be in charge of your kids' medical, mental health, fitness, nutrition, everything. They won't even need parents by the time this is fully integrated into our society. So I put this in here just because I want you to see kind of all of these little bullet points of what the WSCC model includes, and have this in your mind as you read through the, excuse me, as you read through the MHAA plan, that 19-page PDF of the district. And I would encourage you to do that. I know it's not fun, but it is. After you've seen this, you might read it with a different lens, and some keywords and red flags might jump out at you. But I would encourage you to kind of keep this model in mind as you read through that and see what red flags jump out at you, because you would probably see it through a whole different lens. And this is the CDC, so this is on a federal level, and as you know, on a federal level, they want to push this into all 50 states. So no safest state if we don't defend it.
If I might add one thing, they already are, and we have the groundwork for this in Sarasota County, which is also going to be in the next deep dive that we're doing.
Awesome. Did I put this in, Alexis, or did you?
I added that only because I wanted to
Okay.
so that, like, what we're going to be doing after this is we're just going to continue to build on this groundwork that Julie's laying and show you connect where these are all already taking place in the classrooms, schools, families, and caregivers in our communities. This whole framework is in every aspect of the public education system, and it's branching out into every aspect of our entire community, including our hospitals, everything.
And the biggest thing to note about this is how social emotional learning is the core of everything else. They want that to be the central component to a child's life. And look how far out of that circle the families and caregivers are. And I want you to sort of make a mental note of caregivers, because what we're seeing in places like Washington, California, New York, families are easily replaced with caregivers. They can be state social workers, they can be youth shelters, they can be what in Washington they call them host homes. They don't have to have any special license or anything like that. So be really careful when you start to see those other terms thrown in with families, because they're not talking about the nuclear family, like mom and dad and their children. They're really seeing the child as part of the community, part of the government. Is that all we have?
That is that part of the
Okay.
presentation. Ashton's going to do the next part, but I just want to mention on that note with this slide here, you mentioned there are homes, but they're also pushing something called emancipated minors, which is if your parents don't really support what you want to do, children at around 16, I think, can become technically adults and manage their own lives without their parents. And we have things showing that that's happening in Sarasota County schools. So, Ashton, are you ready to
Okay,
do
so
your
before I get started,
portion?
I just am going to let you know that I am going to be showing you guys the connection of the PBIS, which the way that I understand it is that it is the framework for the mental health initiative that is being pushed at the federal level, but now as we're starting to find out at the state level too. PBIS is not required, but our district has gone ahead and implemented it anyways. I believe based off of what I've been digging into, the district implemented it into 2019. And so that's when everything kind of started to go woke, because we've always had SEL in the district. And it used to be a great thing before it went very progressive. And so now they are telling us, SEL is a requirement. SEL is not a requirement. Character education is a requirement. They're two separate things. So, okay, let me get started. I'm just going to play this.
That was also the year that the school board police became a thing. It used to be an outside agency, and that was the year that they brought the school board resource officers in.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to play this, and then at the end, I will take any questions and let you pause and just kind of read it. And I'll put the link to this too in the chat after this is finished. Sorry, that's my son if you guys can hear him. But I will put the link to this so you guys can go through and stop and watch this and kind of look into whatever it is that catches your eye. But again, here's the hand with all the fluffy words that they use. And resilience, that's the new buzzword. So right now we're partnered with USF, and that is who is collecting monthly reports from our student services department. So I'm just going to stop it for a minute. This is a report that I found on the PBIS website that is on the USF website that's linked on our school district website. So it's talking about creating responsive systems. Again, just a bunch of fluffy words to disguise what the true narrative is. So I'll just read this really quick. Less likely to receive the same quality of advising and mentoring as their white counterparts. So right here, it talks about oppression. And then I go into how did we get here? So in 2018, the Florida PBIS hosted a seminar, an online seminar. And so in the seminar, there was a chat group, and one of the participants put in the chat, exploring our options as our district is researching implementing SEL in the PBIS framework. And in this slide, it talks about in the chat how they'll use guidance counselors, social workers, PBIS coaches, and the curriculum. So when I started digging into the funding of this, I came across something from Wilton Simpson, who made a request in 2019, right after the Marjory Stoneman Douglas school shooting. And it was for a curriculum called Creating Compassionate Schools. And so it started in Pasco, and then they implemented it across 67 counties, the SEL aspect of it. And you can see the similar, the words, how they change maybe a word, but it's the same language. So about a month and a half after Wilton Simpson made that request, Manny Diaz, who was a state senator, or I'm sorry, he was a House representative at the time, he made a request for social emotional learning reading programs, because that's what we're going to start hearing in the school district. Our board members are going to start saying that this will help improve our reading scores, because as we know, I think it's like 60% of third graders are reading at grade level, which is terrible, but I know that they are going to try to say that this is going to be a solution to that problem. And right here, you'll see the word CASEL, which I know that Jennifer talked about that, and so did Alexis. And then if you keep looking, Casey DeSantis was actually the one to start pushing the mental health initiative in Florida. And our new state statute states that no later than July 1, 2023, and annually therefore after, each school district will have to have at least 80% of school personnel trained in the mental health awareness aspect of it. So these are just some tweets, which is kind of ironic, talking about SEL and that it has no place in our public schools. And this is our school district website. So if you go to the main link and then click on student services, this is the homepage for that section. And it talks about PBIS, character education, MTSS, and the resiliency toolkit, which is the CPALMs. I think we shared that already. And all of these people have been made aware of what's going on, just so everyone's clear. We have spent many months behind the scenes working on this, trying to inform board members, and it has gotten to the point where board members have told us to just stop talking about it.